What's the biggest change now in college football?
It's a much different game than it was. I'm very close with obviously Ryan Day at Ohio State and many colleagues in the college game. And it used to be, I'll never forget my first meeting at Ohio State in 1986. Woody Hayes was still alive. Earl Bruce was the coach. I idolized the Buckeyes. And I come walking in that meeting. I remember him pounding the table and just going through the culture expectation. And the number one thing, I'll never forget this. I shared this with my staff for many years. The number one thing in Ohio State football is a premium placed on education. That means your player will graduate or you're in trouble as an assistant coach. That means you know his classes, you know his tutors, you make sure he graduates. A premium placed on education. No player will leave Ohio State without graduating or you're in trouble. I'll never forget that. I used to carry around on an index card. I was the tight end coach. My players' GPAs, their tutors, their teachers, their class schedule, because we didn't have iPads and cell phones back then. But I wanted to know everything that player is doing because I'd lose my job if my player didn't graduate. So number one was premium placed on education. Number two was premium placed on toughness. The toughest team always wins. That's the way it is in football. This was well before spread offenses which I take offense to. Spread offense. Football is still toughness. I don't care what you run. But number two is toughness. And number three, how about this? Is team first, selflessness. That's it. And he stopped. And I mean, you talk about everybody writing it down. I still have the notes. I still look down. That was Woody Hayes would give us the same lecture as he would come into our meeting. Education, toughness, selflessness. And now it's it's just different now. When you go out and recruit now, you're slotting people in money. This player is going to get this amount of money. This player, well, I'm not going to go here because if they're offering me more money. I have some of the coaches at the smaller schools telling me that right now that their top 5 players are shopping themselves around at the bigger schools to see if a scholarship's available. The whole thing that we did at Ohio State with Real Life Wednesdays, where the focus was on life after sport. It's still there, but now, you'll see some players make $1 million, which I'm not saying is wrong. I mean, my gosh, coaches make millions of dollars. Why can't a player, but I'm not saying right or wrong. It's just much different. When
you look at college, I look at this in college basketball and I wonder, okay, this is good. Kids are going to make money. That's great. And it's impossible to forecast, but it's a discussion. I'm thinking to myself, man, 5 years after these guys are done, are they going to have a degree? What's going to happen here with education? Because all I hear about in college sports is what you're talking about. I don't hear education. It was about 10 years ago, all you heard about was education, college basketball and college football players are graduating. I'm curious about how all of this money and all of this movement from school to school, like we just saw a Georgia wide receiver transfer to Alabama for crying out loud. How this is going to ultimately affect guys 5 years after they're graduate. That's what I always worried about as a coach. I mean, I wanted to win, obviously, lost my mind. But, man, 5 years from now, what kind of effect – I know we can't predict, but what kind of effect do you think all this will have on that?
Well, here, in my opinion, here's the timeline of what really happened, or the chronological order of when I first got into coaching. You got a degree, there was a great chance that a job opportunity was waiting for you. And here's what happened, Dan. When I was at Florida, I was shocked. Florida's an elite academic school. We'd have guys graduate with a 2.0 or something because you just work so hard at graduating. Maybe not a degree that was that useful because everybody started graduating from college. So the competitiveness in the workforce, that's when we started Real Life Wednesdays, where I got these players are coming back to me saying, Coach, I can't get a job. And they just gave us everything for 4 years, everything. And you tell me we can't get this kid a damn job, and it would drive me insane. And so that's when we started the fiscal responsibility. I had players shadow internships. We send them across the country, contacts, and we would help them. And then all of a sudden at Ohio State, they took this Real Life Wednesday. We're getting 80 to 90% of our players get jobs right when they were done. Obviously not the NFL guys because they went to the NFL. But that's where it went from graduation. Then I think it went to, are they prepared for life after football with a job? I think that's going to be residual damage, a little bit like the transfer portal. There's thousands of players in this transfer portal right now, but there aren't thousands of scholarships. So here you got these players, and I actually spoke with an Ohio State player, his mother yesterday, that he left. And he left Ohio State. And I said, where are we going? And she said, I don't know. There's not many options out there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Ohio State's an elite academic school, the contacts you make. And we left because of what? Playing time? Because someone, and now, when you're 27 years old, I got news. No one's going to ask you how many games you started at Ohio State. They're going to ask you, what's your skill set so I can hire you, so you can support your family. So, Dan, I'm horrified over it.
That's my, I've seen it with my own son. He transferred from Michigan, went to Ohio State, and he got lucky, but where do you belong? Who do you go to? I get it, man. Some kids, how many kids? Let me ask you this, because you're more in tune than this to me. You mentioned $1 million. We all know Bryce Young. Here's what I was told by a guy, a lawyer, Alabama. He said Bryce Young's making $1.3 million. Montana Fouts, who's a friend of our family, she's a softball pitcher at Alabama, is making $1 million. How many kids do you think are making? I'm not going to say million. How many kids are making enough money? How many kids are making any money that really helps long term?
I'd hate to even go there because I don't know that.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot.
Do you?
I think right now I do know this, that in the recruiting conversations, you're talking about, 100, 200,
Is that right?
That's just to come on campus. Yeah. So, but I'd be
Whoa. That's just to come on campus?
To play. Yeah. What? Okay. I'm going to go look at this school. They're offering me 150. What do you offer me? We'll go 160, and I've heard that. Once again, I'm not in those living rooms though.
Right. Yeah, that surprises me. I'm glad. I did not know that. I would have thought that the number wasn't going to be that high.
I want to give you real quick, because I don't want people to think me and you are both. I think we're both old school, and we're worried about education, and life after sport, because I know that's what Bobby and I was.
Absolutely.
That's where I grew up too. But I also, Cardell Jones, who I love to death. Cardell Jones was lightning in a bottle. He comes in and won 3 of the biggest games in the history of Ohio State as third-string quarterback, beats Wisconsin, beats Alabama, beats Oregon, national champion legend. And his name and likeness would have been, they said, he would have made 7 figures. He would have been a $1 million, and they didn't have that then. And obviously, he made it for a few years in NFL, but, that's substantial, that him and his family could have benefited. So there's, we got to really look at both sides. But I think the fundamental agreement that we both have, and I think the majority of people would have, this is all about the player. It's not about the player's family. It's about the player. And when he's 26 to 45, 55 years old, can he support his family?